Today on Growing Bolder, a life in focus.
I'm going to just take one to see what... Perfecto! Oh, hurry up, Joe, I can't wait.
How a photographer is fulfilling her dreams by shining the spotlight on others. Then,
the bell rang in my head and I just said, I got to do it my way.
His way, as it turns out, was to believe that he could overcome any obstacle and recover from an accident that shattered his body but never crushed his spirit.
I can't resist beautiful clothes.
But you're not bothered.
I admit it, I'm an addict, I'm a junkie.
and we go into a closet like no other, belonging to a woman who's learned a thing or two about style, fashion, and philanthropy, how she's making a difference. This is Growing Bolder.
The moral of the story is really follow your heart.
Live your life to the fullest. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it.
So get out there, take some chances.
Find something you love and make it your lifestyle.
Make no mistake about it, it's a revolution.
Is there something you've always wanted to do but held yourself back? Maybe because you weren't sure if you could do it, or because people told you you'd never be able to do it. Well, you've got to tune all of that out. I'm Bill Schaefer.
And I'm Mark Middleton here at the Growing Bolder House in Lake Nona, Florida. Throughout today's program, we'll introduce you to men and women who refuse to take no for an answer. Instead, they're saying yes to adventure, yes to big dreams, and yes to growing bolder. We start with Alex Rotas, a photographer whose stunning work shares the achievements and the inspirational stories of masters athletes from all over the world. Through her art, Alex challenges stereotypes and proves that you can compete at any age, whether it's running, playing tennis, swimming, or another activity. Alex lives in the UK, but she made a visit to the US, and when we found out, we knew there was one place that we had to take her, the Joe Dome, the backyard pole vaulting pit of Masters world champion Joe Johnston. Come along as Alex puts Joe in focus and talks to us about why it's important and so much fun to be a beginner again. UK-based Masters sports photographer Alex Rotas is anxious to get a few shots of Joe Johnston.
Okay, we're good.
Now in his 70s, Joe is an age group world record holder in the pole vault.
I'm going to just take one to see what... Perfecto! Oh, hurry up, Joe. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
After retiring from a distinguished academic career, Alex has reinvented herself as a photographer, despite knowing next to nothing about photography.
I love new things. I love being a beginner. I love being at the bottom of a steep learning curve. And I keep finding sort of one thing just leads to another.
And today, that's led her to Central Florida and the infamous Joe Dome, the backyard pole vaulting pit where Joe Johnston invents new training methods.
Oh my God.
Like bouncing on a pole.
I'm blown away.
Or his own take on the American Ninja Warrior climbing wall.
I have never, ever met anyone like this.
Alex is fascinated with aging athletes and specializes in action shots from national and world championships. She's compiled some of her best shots into a book called Growing Old Competitively that features many of the world's top Masters athletes, like 37-time world record holder Olga Kotelko, who competed up until her death at age 95.
And I said to her, so Olga, have you been doing track and field all your life? Because she was a world champion, aged 90-something. And she said, heavens no, honey, I only took it up when I was 77 years old. And I only discovered I could write when I was 93. How many people can say that?
English shot put champion Cliff Taylor is also among the many greats in her book.
And I said, oh, Cliff, here's my book and your pictures in it. And he said, Alex, why have you put me in your book of old people? He's 84. He's 84.
And that sums up the attitude of most Masters athletes. They don't consider themselves old, so they don't act old, and to a large degree, they don't get old. They remain active up until the very end, which is exactly what happened to Olga Kotelko.
And I was convinced I was going to be photographing her when she was 100 and 105. And so I was pretty shocked to hear that she died 2 months later. But it was actually a terrific death. She did what they call squaring the circle. You know, she didn't decline. She just lived life ablaze, and then whoops, went to bed one night and didn't wake up. So
that's a great way to go. Alex says don't make the mistake of thinking that those she photographs are genetically superior individuals immune to the physical disabilities we all face as we get older.
I think people would probably have the impression that these people, you know, they are superhuman. You know, they don't have the hip replacements or the knee replacements or the heart attacks or the strokes, but they do. They have all of the above, and sometimes they have a combination of them, and they just don't let it defeat them.
Before leaving, Alex snaps a few more pictures and can't resist joining Joe and his wife Janet in some good old-fashioned fun.
Oh, this is more fun than fun.
She likes to have fun. She tries stuff. Yeah, she's a special gal.
And what does she think of her new friend?
Where to start? Where to start? I mean, it's eccentricity in the best possible way of the word. He's just his own person, isn't he? I mean, he's living the dream, and it doesn't matter what age he is. I've never seen anything like this dome. I have never seen it. It's just awesome.
Just when she's beginning to master a subject matter she loves, Alex is forcing herself to move on to something new. Her next challenge will be taking portraits of older gardeners.
I don't know if it is in the States, but it's very big with older people in the UK. So there are lots and lots of people who get immense pleasure from gardening in their 80s and 90s.
Alex Rotas has a love for adventure and no fear of failure. That's a powerful combination that has enabled her to create a new life in which she not only sees the world through the eyes of others, she gets to share in their passion and understand their purpose.
I can't believe that I found something that's just giving me so much. It's not just pleasure. I mean, it is pleasure. It's fun. It's fun in its laughter. But gosh, every day I feel my life's enriched. And you know, you meet somebody like Joe Johnston, and your life just gets a little bit bigger, doesn't it? Because you're seeing somebody live in a way that's totally his, totally unique, and you couldn't make it up. You couldn't describe it really. So yeah, I just feel unbelievably blessed, I guess, to have found something that I love doing that's just giving me so much. Having a blast.
You saw some of Joe Johnston's pole vaulting setup in that story, and we have much more about Joe and his wife Janet, who are one of the most interesting couples we've ever met in our Growing Bolder journeys. Just head to growingbolder.com/TV. You know, amazing people, and there is a major and very interesting update to the Joe Dome. Joe and Janet wanted to build an indoor Joe Dome behind their house. They applied for a permit, but the city denied it. The only way that it would conform to the building code is if it were actually part of their house, so that's exactly what they're now doing, adding a 5,000 square foot addition, an indoor pole vaulting room.
Boy, talk about loving your passion, but that might make the house a little bit hard to sell in the future. But don't you love that? That's a positive and an enthusiastic embrace of life. They're in their 70s. They're not adding a garden or a shuffleboard court. They're adding a pole vaulting room so they can continue to do what they love. Well, Michael Ives wanted to be a drummer in a rock band, but that dream was crushed when his arms were crushed in an industrial accident. The result was intense physical pain and never went away. That brought on a relentless mental anguish. Michael had no idea where to turn or what to do until he tried something that nobody thought would work, but did it ever, to the point where he is both surviving and thriving.
Good, Alan, to your right.
Each of these bodybuilders is over the age of 50. Each has a remarkable story to tell, but none quite like Mike Ives. His doctors say it's a miracle that he's even alive. It happened when he was 16, at work, loading cardboard scraps into an industrial baler.
Someone had called me, and I went and turned as I was pushing the paper into the machine, and as fast as I could turn back, I knew it was the end. I knew my life was over at that point.
His arms got caught, stuck between beams the size of railroad ties that clamped down and crushed them.
It actually lifted me a foot off the ground and took me in.
He screamed for help, but no one heard, so there he hung.
And I just laid there moaning. There was no more grasp of like yelling or screaming. It was gone. It was out of me.
30 minutes later, they found him, wrapped him in a blanket, and drove him 30 miles to the nearest hospital.
To them, it was the most severe injury that they've ever seen. I remember laying on that gurney in that operating room, but I can hear my father in the background crying, and I can hear someone telling him we need to amputate his arms at the elbows. Yeah, I'll never forget hearing that. The chance of him ever using them are 50-50, so we can't guarantee that he's ever going to use them. And so my father took that chance.
And against all odds, his arms were saved. But his recovery was slow and agonizing. The pain was constant and unrelenting.
Sometimes I just wanted my arms off. Because of the pain that I was living with, and taking painkillers on a somewhat basics under doctor supervision. I felt it was tearing me up inside. And that's when I finally, like a bell rang in my head, and I just said, I got to do it my way.
The only good thing he'd gotten in his life came from hard work. That, he thought, was his only chance now.
I picked up a magazine with Arnold Schwarzenegger on it, and I looked at that picture and I said, wow, and I took it home and I read, and that's where it started. That's where the seed was planted.
He bought a set of weights, and against his doctor's advice, Ives began his own rehabilitation.
And they told me, no, you don't want to work out. It's not good for the tendons and the ligaments and all that stuff. And I kind of just went against the will of them and not telling them.
Why did you do that? Weren't you worried that you were going to make them worse?
I was worried, but when I started seeing results, I started looking at how my body was developing.
Sure enough, his arms were getting stronger, but so was the pain.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night crying. My arms would just kill me, and I would just squeeze them and rub them and try to, and I figured something out.
He figured the more he focused on his workouts, the less he'd think about the pain. He became driven, so much so that he entered his very first bodybuilding contest. But this time it was his hopes that were crushed.
Didn't place. I went home and I cried, but it was weird because that night I had this just crazy dream that they came out on stage and gave me that first place. And it's something that stuck with me. I'd be working construction, digging footers, and that dream would just pop up. I'd have to stop for 5 minutes and I'd see myself getting that first place trophy, and it never went away from my life.
Let's hear it for Michael Ives, competitor number 50.
And just like that, he no longer saw himself as the boy with the shattered arms. He was a bodybuilder in pursuit of a dream, which finally came true at the age of 50.
I just wanted to bust down on my knees and cry, and I guess I just held all that pride in, but I'll never forget it.
Show the best pose, fellas.
I watched the video constantly just to see how I looked.
It was, for him, triumph over tragedy, victory over all the people who never believed.
That's another thing I like to just kind of point out to people who downed me and told me, face reality, you're not going to be nothing. That I think that threw a lot of fuel on my fire. I'll never forget all that. I'll never pinpoint to the people who said things because I forgive them. But it's things you just don't forget.
He's also never forgotten how much it meant to have someone who did believe.
The biggest person I want to thank in my life for this, of course, is God, but my mother. Because my mother said something to me when I was a kid. She said, Michael, you can be anything you want. And she was right.
Now, Michael Ives is an inspiration to anyone facing insurmountable odds.
I've taken the route as far as being a natural athlete and a natural bodybuilder, because to me it's all about longevity. It's about living longer. It's about feeling better. We're only here on borrowed time, and I'm just trying to slow the process of aging.
You see, he wants to be around to make a difference for as many as possible. So, like Mike, they can feel that they've led a life well lived.
I never wanted to be the greatest. I just wanted to be better than what I was, you know.
When people tell you that you're never going to make it or that your dream is ridiculous, you basically have two choices. You can let those opinions stop you in your tracks and make you quit right there, or you can use them to push you, to drive you, to give your best effort. Who knows, maybe you'll be like Michael Ives and one day prove everybody wrong. Someone else who overcame a health obstacle is Kimberly Ward. She was born with a hole in her heart, never even knew it was there until it was almost too late. Of all people, her eye doctor actually made the diagnosis based on her temporary episodes of blindness. At the age of 42, Kimberly, a nurse herself, underwent open heart surgery, and oh, what a difference that has made. She's active, strong, and now she says she can keep up with her young daughter, and she understands that it's up to her to make the rest of her life the best of her life.
I feel I can continue on my journey in life and, hopefully make a difference for other people by sharing my story.
Kimberly actually felt some symptoms early on when she would find herself running out of breath doing some of the simplest things, but she just shrugged it off and never really followed up on it, and that almost cost her her life. Her message: know your body, trust your instincts, and get regular checkups, especially if there's something that just doesn't feel quite right. Find more inspirational stories of surviving and thriving when you visit us online, growingbolder.com/TV.
Move forward, give back. It's one of the keys to growing bolder, and of course, philanthropy can take all forms. For one woman, it starts with one of the most incredible closets in the world. Before you think she only cares about collecting clothes, see why she's been steadily giving away her entire fortune since 2004, distributing millions of dollars every year to dozens of charities.
This is a rare and exclusive look inside one of the most amazing closets anywhere. It belongs to 91-year-old Harriett Lake, who says she has a disease.
That's true.
How would you describe it?
It's, I can't resist clothes. I can't resist beautiful clothes.
But you're not bothered.
I admit it, I'm an addict, I'm a junkie.
You're not trying to kick it though, are you?
Oh, no. Even if I were penniless, I would be out there working for fabric, and then I'd make my own stuff with a sewing machine.
Harriett designed her entire house around this closet after seeing something similar in a magazine article on actor George Hamilton.
The guy with the tan.
Yes.
He had a 10-foot closet, and he put a conveyor belt in it. I said, I'm going to call the company. He says, no problem, as long as you have 10-foot ceilings. So that's why this house has 10-foot ceilings. Everything revolved around the closet.
While her closet is big, it's not big enough. She's turned her 3-car garage into another closet and still needed more room.
So you have some stuff in a warehouse.
5,000 square feet, yeah.
These days, Harriett does most of her buying from catalogs and magazines.
So what kind of an outfit do you see in a magazine that you say, gotta have it?
Oh, there are a lot of them. I call, I get them.
So you see this in a catalog and you just have to have it. Something happens.
That's right, something happens. It was $1,000, and that's how.
And you call them up and?
Call them up and they send it right up. This piece is Dior, and it came from France. I called New Jersey, the Dior boutique sent it over from France. And I saw it on, what's her name? Charlize Theron. And the hat is like 40 years old. Wow. I have no idea, but I love it, and it's so outrageous and stupid.
How many outfits does she have? Even she doesn't know that.
Someone from UCF counted how many hats I have. It came to 1,600, but I think I have more.
How many shoes do you have?
That varies because I've had 3 hip replacements, and every time I go through another one, the heels get flatter and flatter and shorter and shorter. So I've gone through, who knows. The other day I was in Neiman Marcus, I bought 8 pairs of shoes. They were flats.
And of course, she likes to accessorize. She has a large collection of vintage and designer jewelry and purses. In fact, she's loaned the Orlando Art Museum a nearly priceless collection of 100 bejeweled Judith Leiber vintage clutches.
Even Judith Leiber has a museum of her own, and she's still looking for books that I already own. I mean, jeweled pocketbooks that are books.
Wow.
Can you picture that? Well, I have them.
While she knows some of the world's most fashionable females, there are only 2 wardrobes in the world that she envies. Number 1,
Queen Elizabeth. She's got these great English hats with these gorgeous silk coats and suits. I mean, they're incredible, and the colors and everything. And then number 2 would be Barbara Walters. When I played bridge every day for 30 years, every day I would look at what Barbara Walters had on in The View. And whatever she had on, I just duplicated. I mean, it was easy. I even have pictures of her wearing the same stuff I've got, or I'm wearing the same stuff she's got. I don't know.
How would you describe your style?
I don't know what style is, but I know it when I see it. Some people have incredible style. Those are the people who usually have on a black dress, and there's something about the little black dress, you can't deny it. They look incredible. You can put a coat over them, you can put pearls on them, you can put a jewel on them. A basic black, which you can buy at Costco for $18, will carry you anywhere. It really will.
Before you conclude that Harriett Lake is just a quirky, wealthy widow, consider that she has been steadily giving away her entire fortune since 2004. There are over 20 buildings and parks in Central Florida that bear her name, and she writes checks to nearly 200 local charities every year, totaling millions of dollars.
The old cliche, you can't take it with you. I'm not taking anything with me.
She's also very active in women's rights and helps get out the women's vote, which is why she's wearing her Votes for Women sash today. Her only self-indulgence is fashion, and she doesn't regret a single piece she's purchased. She only regrets the few pieces that she gave away.
Like an Audrey Hepburn coat that she wore in Breakfast at Tiffany's, that orange coat. Every time I think of it, I go into hysteria.
You had it?
I had it. Not her coat, but one exactly like it.
And you wore it?
Oh yeah, it was orange.
Are you still inspired by fashion and clothing today as much as you were 10 years ago?
Maybe even more, because now it's coming to the end. And if I don't get it now, I'm never going to get it.
Do you have a favorite piece today?
If there was a fire here, I would take the $19 black dress and get out.
From Costco?
From Costco.
For now, her biggest problem is simply finding something to wear.
I found it. I found it.
Amazing woman. And there is a proverb that says, it's a wise man who lives with money in the bank. It's a fool who dies that way. Harriett has pretty much taken that to heart. She is personally giving away everything that she has in ways that reflect her belief and her values in the importance of arts, the tragedy of cancer, the healthcare needs of the poor, and the support for abused women and children.
Yeah, remarkable story. You know, they say that you really, Mark, kind of die twice. Once when you take your last breath, and then a second time when somebody says your name for the very last time. And by that measure, Harriett Lake will live forever because she's leaving a legacy that will touch lives and be spoken about for generations. Another woman famous for both her charitable works and her closet was Princess Diana. You may remember that not long before her death, she donated some of her most famous and incredible outfits to raise money for charities. She auctioned off 79 gowns to cancer and AIDS-related charities, and even today those dresses are still saving lives, with many of the owners showing off the clothes in exhibitions around the world, with some of the ticket sales still going to charity. Move forward, give back. Find a longer version of this story and more hope, inspiration, and possibility at growingbolder.com/TV. And finally today, a message that we hope inspires you to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Growing Bolder.
I'm Cecily Wilson for Growing Bolder. We've done dozens of interviews with active centenarians, men and women over the age of 100 who still have an amazing quality of life. One common trait shared by all is the ability to bounce back after change. Just think about it. The universal centenarian experience is one of continual change and, in truth, continual loss. The loss of friends, jobs, spouses, driver's license, sexuality, hearing, and more. Well, here's an old Chinese proverb. When the winds of change blow, some people build walls and some people build windmills. Which one are you? Building windmills, embracing the winds of change is what we call growing bolder. I'm Cecily Wilson.
Stand by. You are going to lean, right?
I am going to lean, yeah.
Okay, good. Because that's how I have you set.
Alex lives in the U.S., but she made a... I caught it. Thank you, though. Are we good?
Yep.
Alex lives in the UK.
It's VO anyway, Mark.
No, it's not. It's too short.
Oh, is it too?
Yeah. All right, so...
I'm sitting here going,
Yeah. So
it's really
less nose picking this time.
yeah.
that's good for the
Or more.
More information about all of the stories you've seen here today is available at growingbolder.com/TV. And you can get inspired to keep rebranding aging when you connect with the Growing Bolder community on Facebook. Growing Bolder is available on DVD for $19.99 plus shipping and handling. A companion book, Growing Bolder, Rebranding Aging by Mark Middleton, is available as well for $29.99 plus shipping and handling. And you can subscribe to Growing Bolder magazine for $19.99. Order online at growingbolder.com/TV.